This is not start one. Hello everyone, and welcome to the next session of Live Coffee Talks presented by Dom Daniel. I would like to remind you that a lot of interesting Azure Coffee Talk sessions await us, so if you want to keep track of the upcoming events and not to miss the one you need, you can subscribe to the updates of our social networks. And for this, you can follow our pages on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And of course, if you have any questions regarding my coffee talk, feel free to contact me via email or my LinkedIn account, and I will try to answer them as soon as possible. So today I will be talking about Azure Cognitive Services, which can be used to empower customers and developers at every organization to innovate. With these cognitive services, we can incorporate AI and ML into our applications without much effort and without worrying about the resources or costs. And artificial intelligence is everywhere, starting from our mobile phones that unlock with our faces or with our fingerprints, from home devices that talk to us, from song music recommendations that we listen to, and artificial intelligence is everywhere, and we can achieve that we can give the computer a human side through AI, and this can be achieved through vision services, for example, because the computer understands only bit, byte, and code. When we use AI, we can teach the computer to understand and learn. And with vision services, we can teach the computer to analyze images and videos, and then analyze the data and extract some insights from it. With speech services, we deal with speech processing, including the translation of speech and text, between speech and text. And we can also use here and speak to our users, and filtering the noise, for example, understanding the content, or just recognizing who is speaking. The fourth service is our language service, which is used to extract and analyze data and information from the text. And after all, it understands, by analyzing this data, it learns and understands what users want. And with decision services, we can make smarter decisions faster, because with these services, we can get personalized recommendations, or we can detect and identify for example, problematic content, which is racy or adult content. And traditionally, AI is working, collecting a huge quantity of data by, and it uses, the key point here is that the more the data, the more accurate will be the result. And over time, this learn from the patterns and data that we give them, and it takes a long time to give the best accuracy, because a lot of testing, a lot of training are needed, and we also need to be sure that the computer understands with no or minimal mistakes, yes? And here comes the good part with Azure Cognitive Services, because Microsoft develops these services, this pre-trained set of machine learning algorithms to solve the problem in the field of artificial intelligence. These services are focused in discrete components, and thus making it to use them very easily and without worrying about how to deploy servers, how to write a code from scratch, because we can easily consume these services via standard REST calls to the Cognitive Services API over the internet. And of course, we can also use the SDKs, the software development kits. Mainly, Azure Cognitive Services are divided into the vision, speech, language, decision, and OpenAI services. Today, I will not talk about the OpenAI services because I intend to give another presentation on this topic later on. So the vision service comes with computer vision, custom vision, and face API. Computer vision is used to do face recognition, image recognition and object recognition. And on the other hand, custom vision is used to train and deploy our own model of image recognition. We can upload our images, tag them with labels, then train our machine learning model. And after that, only after that, we can use this model to classify other images, yes? And with Face API, we can detect, for example, facial attributes such as age, gender, or emotion of a person. With speech service, we have the speech-to-text, which is used to transcribe spoken language into a written text. We have the opposite service, text-to-speech, which is used to convert the written text into a spoken language. We have the speech translation, which is used to translate between languages, and speaker recognition, which is used to identify who is speaking, for example, in a meeting. With language, we have the entity recognition to identify important or specific content in a text, sentiment analysis to identify the emotional tone or sentiment of a person, question answering to answer and automatically and quickly to your questions. With conversational language understanding, it is something like to teach the robot to talk and understand what you mean. And with translator service, we are just translating from many different languages. There are also APIs for decision services, for anomaly detector to detect abnormalities in the text, content moderator to detect offensive or racy and adult content. We have also the personalizer, which learns over time from your priorities and makes recommendations to you. We have seen that there are a lot of capabilities with Azure Cognitive Services, and let's see the vision from a different angle. Here, neural networks are used, and these networks use pattern recognition to identify the different parts, partitions of an image, of a text. For example, with image and object recognition, we can analyze the object. With facial recognition, we can identify and verify the person. And with emotional detection, we can identify the emotional tone or sentiment of a person. On the other hand, with text recognition and OCR, we are analyzing different characters in the text. And moreover, with OCR, we can also analyze handwritten text or even mixed text. Now let's see how we can use these services in real-life scenarios, and probably one of the most popular cases of the development of computer vision is the self-driving car. And with companies like Tesla, it is becoming more evident and clear that these computer vision services will be used to develop new machine learning algorithms, yes? And vision can also be used in security systems, for example, to develop monitoring applications for security cameras to detect objects. There are also a plethora of use cases in healthcare because 90% of medical data is image-based. Computer vision also can be used in sports, for example, to track the performance of a player. In agriculture, it can be used to, for example, analyze the quality of the grain while it is harvested. And manufacturers are just using this service to become more, to work more intelligently, effectively. The second service here is our speech with the audio transcription and into more than 100 languages. We can also create apps that will speak conversationally with speech services. We can translate into more than 30 languages, and of course verify and recognize the speaker in a meeting. And we also can create custom keywords, for example, for IoT devices to make them more personal and more secure. Common scenarios with speech include captioning, which is the process converting the audio into a text, and this can be used for example, online courses, educational programs, and sporting events. Yes. Voice assistants, in voice assistant, because here neural voices can be used to make interactions between voice assistants. Also, we can do transcribe real-time calls or process the batch calls and then detect and extract some insights, for example, sentiment, which then can be used and it can be very helpful for call centers, yes? And of course we can use speech services to create human-like conversational applications. And let's go to our fourth service, which is language. With language service, we can do PII detection and identify and analyze sensitive information in both unstructured and structured documents. Text analytics is used to identify sensitive information in unstructured context. Let it be doctor's notes or, for example, clinical document, etc. Sentiment analysis and opinion mining are very important because when we want to know about what people think about our brand, our topic, we can do sentiment analysis and extract a negative or positive opinion. And the last one is the orchestration workflow, which is a custom feature, and it is used to connect services such as conversational language understanding and question answering with each other. Common scenarios for language are the identifying of important concepts, for example, in emails, customer reviews, better understanding the customer's perception in product reviews, for example, automate workflows and process medical text. We can also create or enable conversational interfaces between applications and IoT devices, for example, etc. And at last, our decision service, which is used to do both real-time and batch detection. With real-time detection, we are just processing the data that we have just collected. And with batch detection, we are dealing with historical data, yes? We have much talked about the content moderation, the content filtering to filter offensive, unwanted, and racy content because we have an option to choose the best content for our users, yes, with recommendations. And at last, let's give some scenarios for decision services, real-time scenarios, yes? For example, it can be used to automatically answer the questions, the frequently asked questions, that is to design workflows to understand, to answer the frequently asked questions. Enterprise media companies and social messaging platforms can use to moderate their content. Education solution providers can use to filter the content which is not suitable for educators or students. And e-commerce and online retail will use to make personal recommendations based on users, for example, browsing history or search results. So these were just a few of the examples for decision services, and the same is true for all the other services. Now I would like to do some demo, and for my demo, I want to do sentiment analysis, and for this I need some Azure services. First of all, I need logic apps because it is an excellent tool to automate workflows and to quickly show some practical insights. Of course, I do need cognitive services to do my sentiment analysis and the database to store our data. Now our solution triggers a workflow when a new review is coming to our database, and cognitive services extracts that data, analyzes it, and in case of positive sentiment, it is just sending an email. Now let's navigate to our portal to create our resources. Here I have opened several instances of Azure portal to do our job more quickly. Now let's create a resource. For the first resource, let's choose the logic app, search for it, choose it, and let's click on create. Now we need to choose our resource group. For this demo, let's create a new resource group, name it. Choose a name for our logic app, logic. Choose the workflow, region, and for testing purposes, let's choose the consumption plan and leave all the other options as it is. Let's click on the review and create and wait while the validation will be passed, and after all, create our resource. Now let's create and wait for the deployment. Now we can, while we are waiting, we can create our next resource. Let's, for now, create the cognitive service. Let's create it. Choose the resource group which we have created in the previous tab, the region, name our cognitive service. Choose the pricing tier. And of course, choose this box because when we are using cognitive services, we must be compliant with responsible AI principles, agree with these principles. Let's check it and choose the other options as it is. Oh, here we have some problem with the naming. It states that I have already a resource with this subdomain. Let's choose another one. Now let's see whether our validation is passed or not. Yes, now we can create our resource. And while these resources are created, here I have some problem. Let's see. What is going on? Let's choose our resource group that we have just created. Here it is. Our logic app is already ready. Now let's create our database. Here it is. Click on create. Choose our resource group. Enter the database name. Let's create a new server for this demo. Name the server. Location is already selected, and set admin. Let's choose my account. And select it. Now our SQL Server is ready. For this demo, let's to not choose the SQL Elastic Pool, and for workload environment, choose the development environment, and go to the networking tab. Choose the connectivity mode for public endpoint, and configure firewall rules to allow Azure services and the resources to access this server, and add the current IP address. Now we can leave all the other options as it is, validate our configuration, and create our resource. While these resources are being created, let's go to our Logic app and start creating our workflow. Now Logic App Designer is opened. Let's choose the blank Logic app and choose connector for SQL Server, because we need to trigger a workflow when a new item is coming to our database. Click on when an item is created, trigger type, and configure the connection. Let's give a name for connection. For the authentication type, let's choose the Azure AD integrated and sign in. And yes, here we are ready. Now we need to, let's wait for it. Now we need to enter configuration for our database. Let's see whether our server is created or not. Our server is not created yet. Let's refresh. Maybe we need to add another resource. Let's open another instance and see what's going on. Yes, here it is. Now let's copy the server name and paste it to our Logic App Designer. We need to choose the database name, but the database is not created. Now let's wait for it. Refresh the browser again. We need to give the database name in order to connect to our SQL database. Again, it is not created yet. And here it is. Let's open it, copy the name, paste it here, and here we also need to create a table to insert our data. Now let's open the query editor from the SQL database, sign in, and let's copy and paste this command to create our table and run it. Yes, our table is created, I guess. Now, I haven't passed. Oh, sorry. I need to copy the database name again, paste it here, choose the table, which is reviews, and save the trigger. Now for the next step, I need to configure cognitive services to do our sentiment analysis. Here it is. Let's choose it. And let's now choose the action sentiment analysis. Here it is. Now we need to make connection to this service. Let's name our connection. And again, for the authentication type, choose the Azure AD integrated and sign in. Choose my account. And give other configuration. Now, here we need to give the sentiment, the cognitive services subdomain. Let's navigate to our cognitive services, copy the subdomain name, paste it here. And of course, we need to give dynamic content, which we will read from our database. For document ID, oh, I haven't passed it. Sorry. For document ID, let's choose the ID of our table. For the document text, let's choose the review, which will be analyzed, and save our connector. Now, let me remind you our workflow. In case of positive sentiment, we need to send an email. And for this purpose, let's add conditional logic. Let's search for control. Choose it and choose the connector. This is a simple if-else block, and when the sentiment analysis is positive, we need to add an action and send an email. For this purpose, we will add Microsoft 365 Outlook connector to our workflow. Let's search for it. Choose it and choose to send an email connector. Here it is. Now we need to sign in again. It seems we have some poor network, yes? Let's choose my account. And after all, give the necessary configuration. Specify the person to whom we will send the email. Let's choose again my account. specify the subject, for example, positive sentiment review, and in the body specify the review. Here it is. And save our workflow. And at last, run our trigger to see how it is working. Now we need to insert some data into our table to trigger the workflow. For this, let's add a new query, copy it from here, and paste it. And at last, run. And let's go to our Logic App Designer to see what's going on. Oh, here we have some error. Oh, here we also have not configured the condition. I have forgotten to do it. Let's open the designer. We have two errors, yes. We haven't configured the condition. So we need, when our sentiment is positive, we need to send an email. It's positive. Sorry. Where is the positive? Positive. I've chosen the neutral, but we need positive. We must send an email, save it. And let's see the second error, because I haven't managed to see it from the designer. Let's go to our Logic app and let's see the logs. It has failed, and now we will see the reason why it has failed. Yes, the permission is denied because here we need to enable the identity for the cognitive services. Let's go to our cognitive service again. Choose the identity under resource management and enable it. Let's save it. Here we also need to add role assignment for my user to access this resource. Let's add it from here. Choose for cognitive services users, as it is necessary for the workflow to work. Next, choose members. Choose me from here. Oh, I'm waiting. Select, review and assign, review and assign. And wait while here the role assignment is added. Now we can go and run our trigger again and insert some data into our table. Let's run it again and wait. Here we can see that I have received an email from our database. This was just a tiny little example how you can use cognitive services. Of course, you can improve this workflow, and even you can add or visualize these by using Power BI. Thank you for connecting me today. And I would like to remind you that in case of questions, you can contact me via email or my LinkedIn account. And also I would like to remind that a lot of interesting coffee talk sessions await us, so subscribe to the updates of our social networks. Again, thank you for your attention and time. Goodbye.